2 o'clock, I will open the subcommittee. I'm going to call this a work session on House Bill 421. And at this time, we will recognize the sponsor of this bill, Representative Reed. You want to? So basically, our recap of this is we heard some testimony, and from that, the bill was written pretty short and sweet. But as we went through the testimony, we kind of went down a rabbit hole. And now we are kind of here to address that, to see if we can get the legislation written so that everything that we heard in testimony will be put into this. And so I believe that's where we're probably the best place to pick it up from.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the main two issues that were brought up, I believe all of the testimony was in favor of the bill, and certainly all the comments from the committee was in favor of the premise of the bill. The two issues that got brought up is a little bit of ambiguity around the type of product, and some of the kind of more new age products could, like Diva Cup, could pose a security risk. So we wanted to allow incarcerated people to choose the product that they wanted that suited their needs, but still be able to allow for that security. The language, and this language was vetted and approved by actually, I think the commissioner herself suggested this language, and it's the same for state and county. And I'll just start reading. The superintendent of each county correctional facility, it also says it for the state, shall provide menstrual hygiene products to all people who menstruate in the custody of the county in adequate amounts as necessary at no cost to such person. The incarcerated person shall be provided a choice of feminine hygiene products to include, at a minimum, pads, tampons, and panty liners of varying strengths necessary for their menstrual needs. The number and type of menstrual hygiene products kept in an incarcerated person's cell shall not be excessive so as to create a safety or security issue, and shall be used only for the intended purpose. In this section, menstrual hygiene product, and it defines what that means. It's any product designed to address menstruation.
Excuse me, Representative Reed, is
yes,
that an amendment that you have?
Yes, and I sent it to you, but I was just emailing to the rest of the subcommittee members when you called me up. So... and then the other issue that was...
Let me see if I can get that printed for us.
Oh, absolutely. Do we have a...
Yeah, Brad, if I forward that to you, are you able to print that for us?
It's 0133H.
Please hold.
Yes.
I think this might make it easier for all if we can
Absolutely.
read it instead of having you have to sit there and read it.
And I will say that the other issue that was brought up was the idea, because we had numerous people testifying that there had been examples of people who had gotten infections specifically from panties that were provided to them. The state does always provide new panties, but the counties do not. So what we did to address that, again, had the commissioners okay, was, let me just find it. Any items provided by the county to incarcerated persons that are impacted by menstruation shall be provided in an adequate number, and this says sanitized, but it was proposed to say new, shall be provided new. So I might be looking at the actual wrong version of the amendment, but I can certainly get that fixed before being provided to another incarcerated person is what it said.
All right, so that was sent to Brad, and he's going to hook us up with the actual paper copies of that.
So those were the two issues that were brought up. And as far as I know, all the stakeholders, including the the State Department of Corrections Commissioner Haynes, are all in support of these particular corrections.
Okay, so thank you, Representative. So I'm trying to keep this very, very informal so we can, all be together here. Would you ladies like to, are you guys okay if we just have like a conversation? Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions that I have that I just want to make sure is, so where it, on the amendment that she just read, which again is coming into us, where it said about the supplies being kept with the person, and it said, however much was supposed to be there, is there wording there that we have to put that for you guys? So, and I guess my exact question is, what is Is it a discretionary where it says the amount, like who decides what is excessive or not? Okay. May I have one?
So if I may, so the reason, right,
15 at a time.
the goal, of course, is to make sure, yeah,
All right.
the goal, of course, is to make sure that the incarcerated, may I have one of those? Make sure that the incarcerated person's menstrual needs are met and their sanitation needs are met. So we didn't want to give an exact number. I understand there's a Senate bill that does raise what the practice is on the state level, which is 15, as was cited, and raises that to a mandatory 20 at minimum. I did not feel that giving a specific number was advisable, because if the incarcerated person actually doesn't need 20, that kind of becomes an unfunded mandate, which I understand there was some question around that. But since there is, as I said in committee in the hearing, since there is already understood to be a constitutional requirement to take care of the basic health and sanitation needs of all incarcerated persons, I don't believe that specifying that that includes menstruation needs goes beyond what's already required of the state and of counties. That we're simply clarifying that actually this is part of that basic need. But if you were to say 20 and someone didn't need 20, then that would be problematic. So
Okay. So I want to, I feel like I need to make a disclosure here. Disclaimer. Last year, I was on committee with some people that could pick a bone dry. And I'm trying to foresee that.
sure.
So, do you think, in your opinion, and our fellow friends here, do we have to say specifically, so where you have, okay, of their choice, we have that in there, right? Do we need to have the wording, not necessarily a brand, and just the actual type?
I'm fine to include that.
Hold on one second. Okay. hmm Okay, so let's see where we would put that, because we can just write it right now. So
Line 15,
line 15.
after minimum.
Okay, so the incarcerated person shall be provided at a choice of feminine hygiene products, to include, at a minimum, pads, tampons, and panty liners of varying strengths necessary for the menstrual needs. So after that, is that where we would put not necessarily name brand? I don't know exactly how to word that.
It could be.
Yeah, do you guys want to come up here? We're okay with that.
Requests for specific brands need not be honored or something. Do we need?
Yes. Yeah. We do have to actually have that in there. Yeah, it's crazy. Wherever you're comfortable sitting. We're all just working on this, right?
You know what? Just generally,
Or you might just put
Provide
standard
choice,
issue
standard
before the
issue,
word
and then
pads, tampons, and
that
panty liners.
generalizes, it covers everything.
Okay, so if we could put it, shall be provided. So on line
choice of.
14, so it says incarcerated person shall be provided. So we're thinking right there,
A choice of standard issue,
a choice of standard issue
feminine.
feminine hygiene products. So
All
it's
right.
after a choice of, and it's going to be the word standard issue.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, that'll be very helpful if I end up being the one to go have this done.
Did you see where we're putting that?
I do. So
Right
shall
after the
be
word
provided
of.
a choice of standard issue feminine hygiene products to
Yep.
include.
Yep.
Number and type, shall not be excessive.
Okay.
So on line 20, where it says sanitized, is where it was suggested that the counties may argue that what they're providing is already sanitized and that the word new, since that is what the state does, would be preferable.
Yeah, what line is that on?
Line 20 of the amendment.
The amendment, okay, impacted shall be provided an adequate number of sanitized.
Would that include sheets?
Yeah, so
I can see that.
the state may not provide new sheets currently, and I did send that email to the county commissioner and had not heard back specifically on that issue. She did approve this language, but I specifically went back and said, "Are you okay?" specifically with this line. So I haven't heard back on that yet,
All right,
but she already saw it.
So our sheets are like assigned per person. So when laundry's done, everything's labeled with people's names and things like that. If it has blood or anything like that, it's disposed of with our current practice. But we also do have a policy that kind of outlines what happens if there's any kind of biocontamination and how that laundry is kept separate and done differently. And I can provide that too if that's.
If
something
if
people
we
wanna
can
see.
maybe draw from the policies that
You
the
probably
state,
wouldn't want to put the whole policy. 'cause
No,
it's
but
really
like
long, but
some-
it's
some
it's a long
basic
process.
summation of that, I would think would be suitable for putting into RSA regarding the counties. Basically, we understand that the state already does a good job at this, and that the complaints that we've gotten have been exclusively from county facilities. So I think lifting up the county requirements to the level of state.
Okay.
so one of the things that I believe that this is addressing right here, which is line 20, but this still doesn't say necessarily new. It just says shall be provided in an adequate number and sanitized before being provided to another incarcerated person.
Right.
So are we still back to the you may get somebody else's Brad, I'm so sorry that you're in here.
So I actually think when I just read when this got printed, I read the wrong amendment number because I had an amendment. It was suggested to change that to new, and I had an amendment drafted. So I think it's specifically to deal with changing sanitized to new. So, but it's fine. We can work with this and then just change it again.
What, oh, thanks, Ellen. So is that the new language was already approved by the Commissioner Hanks?
I believe so, but it only apply, if you notice, it was only put into the county section, and I wrote to her and said, this line, the specific line that we're discussing, was only added to the county section. Are you okay with it with the state? And that's what I haven't heard back on.
I
Thank
just
you.
have a question. I mean, as a nurse, I've worked in hospitals, and blood is I mean, obviously it's a pathogen, but laundry services don't, even though laundry is blood stained, maybe it is sanitized with the intent to remove it. When it's not removable, then it's discarded. I'm just a little worried about when we say new everything, that it's going to be problematic
Okay.
in the big. I think but the question is, what does sanitized mean?
Right.
Does it mean stained so that's, I don't know, I'm just feel.
Well,
I
when we
think
started
they-
to
they
clean,
were
look like
talking-
they're trying to tell us. So let's
Okay.
see what they have to
Yes.
say.
Thank you. And just for members of the committee, my name is Kate Horgan. I represent the Association of Counties. Superintendent Henry apologizes he can't be here because the opioid committee is meeting at the same time, and he also sits on that. So I did just send him this amendment. He is fine with all of the changes that have just been discussed, as he just texted me and said, yes, that's fine. So the counties have no problem with this. We do have new superintendents. So all 10 counties currently have a policy that products are provided to female inmates. Similar to the state, it's a standard issue. You may not get the particular brand you want, but tampons, pants, panty liners are all offered.
So the only question that I think that we're still all having is if we put new, does that mean that every, 25 to
Superintendent
30
Henry, I
days?
just gave him that change and he said he's fine. That makes sense to him.
Okay.
I guess my question is, I can foresee the challenge being if we're talking about both new undergarments as well as new sheets, new bed linens. And so I don't know if we need, rather than any item that might be impacted by menstruation being new, if any undergarments being new. I mean, I don't know, the idea of someone being, and I know that you said it doesn't happen at the state level, but the idea of any person being issued anyone else's
Panties.
recycled underpants
Right.
is, it's cruel and inhumane,
And-
and there's no way that that can be.
I think
Clean.
that's what we're working
And
on.
yeah,
right now.
and we
So-
and we heard of at least 2 people who had developed infections from
As a result.
yeah,
But so I'm just wondering if, rather than leaving it as broad as any product, if it needs to
split it
be-
out.
if we need to split that out so that the understanding is I mean, I can see sheets being
Okay.
properly sanitized and recycled.
Sh-
So
Should
underline 19, so where it says any items, maybe instead of any items provided, maybe that should say any undergarments provided by the county to incarcerated persons that are impacted by menstruation shall be,
what about clothing?
we should put new? Well, I
Because
don't,
clothing could be impacted as well.
but I don't necessarily think a pair of jeans has the same impact being if those,
Right.
if those were used versus undergarments.
So what if we say undergarments for new and then sanitized for any other product?
I actually I mean, I wear someone, so you gave me a pair of jeans, I'd wear them,
Yeah, oh, I would,
right?
I-
Okay.
I just have another suggestion. Just with the new thing, I think we could achieve the same thing without requiring that every time somebody has, a need for this, everything's new. If we add just, the issue is the sanitize not necessarily being sufficient. So what if it says, the line 19 as it is and on line 20
Mhm.
shall be provided in an unstained adequate number, or no, in an adequate number, comma, unstained and sanitized before. That way, if there's any stain on it, it's automatically rejected, and if they have to buy new, they have to buy new. But that's really the issue,
So
right?
is that the undergarments? So I
Oh, and yeah,
personally feel
I
the
think
undergarments should be new. Do you,
Every time for every person,
I don't think that
Absolutely.
I don't think that you
and
can,
that's yeah.
I don't think that there's an issue if somebody, I don't know what they wear in prison. I've never been there. So I don't know if the outer clothing, to me, if that is used, that to me is not a problem. That's not inhumane. That's normal. People give me
Yeah.
clothes all the time. The problem that's becomes just not acceptable is giving somebody else's used underwear.
So would that be a separate line? Keeping this one, adding the unstained and sanitized, and then adding another line for undergarments being.
Any
we
undergarments that are
Well,
impacted.
unstained. I mean, if you do your best to get the stain out, there might be a little bit of a little bit mark might still be there. I don't think that necessarily is. You think so?
Yeah,
Just take it out
un-
altogether.
unstained. If there's a stain,
For
it's fine.
sheets,
That's what it would cover the sheets.
Right,
And
and-
undergarments you could make it a separate line, but any items provided by the county, or you could just say
and I
any
feel like
bedding
it's
items.
I think it's still appropriate for clothing as well, because I don't think an inmate would necessarily want a blood stain from somebody else on there. I mean, I could imagine
Right.
problems socially speaking amongst inmates if one person has a blood stain. So unstained, I think, is adequate for clothing. But
Can you explain to us what happens with clothing?
Sorry.
What
Laundry
difference?
right now, the laundry policy is it's the same for any inmate. It gets washed regularly and they're provided with female undergarments. I don't know if they're new or if and that's just for Rockingham County. I would have to check with all 10 to make sure that everybody has the same policy. Sometimes policies slightly vary from here to there, but I'm happy to shoot out an email real quick and see if I can get an answer on that while we're sitting here.
If a person, generally speaking, if a person needed something new, have you seen where they're giving something that may still have a visible stain on it, say like a pair of jeans, or I don't know what you wear in prison.
I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I'm happy to try and find out, Representative Rhodes.
Okay.
So and there's a difference too, I think, between what you're issued initially and from what I understand from all the testimony we heard, both in the county and the state, what happens is you are are issued specific clothing for you. When laundry day comes, that clothing is bagged in a bag for you, and you get the same exact items back to you. And so there's a difference between getting somebody else's stained and then your own that's been laundered. But, you know, because I know I have stained underwear. So
Okay, so then what? So
that
now
was a
we're
weird thing to
we're
say. I
back
never
to
thought I
if
would
it's
say
your-
that in
if it's your
recording.
own clothing that you're getting back, then that's not necessarily so gross.
So I would say shall initially be, so undergarments specifically shall initially be provided new. And then we can say returned sanitized.
To
Is
the
that-
to the original owner.
So is it more like it's an issue of the original, well, more like it's an issue of the original being issued it, right? We want to make sure they're not being issued recycled underwear.
Right.
Is the main thing. So saying that undergarments shall be issued new.
Okay, so hold on one second. She's been trying to say. something.
Did you have a question for me first?
I'm thinking, sorry. The English teacher in me is thinking the language. So upon arrival at the incarceration facility shall be issued new underwear.
Yeah, you could say something like upon arrival or upon intake. I think either of those
Intake.
Upon
representative would
intake.
be appropriate. And then with ours, we do issue new underwear upon arrival. We also allow for the opportunity to get additional pairs every 6 months. I don't know that we need to dive that far into it, but
Okay.
that's kind of how we handle things.
Okay.
And then as far as laundry, also with the laundry, everything that an inmate owns is labeled. So not just the bag, but I don't know how it's done
In
at the
the-
counties, but
Kinda
I would
like in a
imagine it's
nursing home,
similar.
right? Like on the
Yes,
tag.
everybody
Okay.
has their name in every piece of clothing that they have. So that's another way that we keep it separate. But I would imagine the counties also label.
I will say for the record
Wait,
that,
hold
oh,
on.
I
one second.
apologize.
Will you? I will find out. Okay, I thought she was asking you
I
specifically.
will say that since I don't think we had a representative from the counties at the hearing, that for the record, the people who had the complaints about infections and things were not from Rockingham County.
Thank you, Representative. I do understand that, and I apologize to the committee for not being here, but it was the
It's fine.
beginning of the session.
I didn't
so-
mean to call you out. I was just
Yeah.
saying in case like the Rockingham County Commissioner was like, no, it wasn't Rockingham that was the problem.
All right. So what I'm hearing is the clothing. Sorry, I'm vertically challenged and I can't ever reach my microphone. So the clothing is labeled just like it is in a nursing home. It's labeled when it goes off to the laundry, and then that bag is also labeled. So getting it back to that particular person is really not the issue.
It's not an issue in
Okay.
our facility,
Okay.
Representative. Thank
Is it
you.
in the counties?
Is it? She's not sure. She's look.
That
She's
makes a difference.
frantically looking on. She's frantically looking into it.
What
Okay.
I currently have is that upon intake, undergarments shall be provided in new condition, and then any product. Let me see what the wording was.
What line are you on?
So that was a line that we created. I would say we
Just
would
now?
add it, 19 and 20.
All right.
So specifically, adding a statement on its own that's saying upon intake, undergarments shall be provided new, probably before the word, or maybe at the end of the paragraph. But then the other sentence is any items provided by the county to incarcerated persons shall be provided in adequate number, unstained and sanitized. So that would cover also underwear, but just saying that they have to sanitize those panties. It's been assigned to you new, but if you do
right.
stain them, then it has to be sanitized before they give it back to you. Or if it's stained permanently, then they'll replace it.
That all makes sense. I think we're getting this wording. And again, I really don't mean to be ridiculous about, but I'm telling you, last year, some of the things these people came up with, I was like, what?
It's understandable.
Where do you live? Like, how do you come up with this stuff? You know? So now I don't want it to come back over 2 words.
Representative Selig has
So would we add that line to both
the county and the
30-B
state.
27 as well as 62?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to duplicate it for both the state and the county.
Ensuring I understand procedurally.
So
and
it'll be between
clarifying.
it'll be between lines 19 and 20 is where we're going to add that. And then the word unstained will be after. So it says, and in an adequate number, unstained and sanitized before being provided. Did you have something?
I have an answer on the laundry. So each jail is different. It depends upon if they use laundry bags, but for the most part, they're mainly sharing clothing. It's all washed, dried, and they get fresh clothes as a clothing exchange. They have inmates come in and get clean used clothes. They Superintendent Henry did want me to mention that they could never afford new clothes for inmates every single time. But if they're damaged or something like that, that's a different situation.
Well, I think that's what we're going
Hold on
for.
one at a time, please. Hold on one second. What were you going to say?
I just building on what she just said, that I think that's what we're going for, is that if it's stained, then we're providing new. We're taking it out of circulation. But if it's, if it's clean, there's no stain, it's been sanitized, it's ready to go.
Yeah, I was just gonna, so I was thinking that regardless if it was still stained, if it was cleaned and sanitized for the same person, it would be reused for the same person. It would be taken out of circulation after that person leaves for someone who's coming in new, aside from undergarments, which would be.
It sounds like what we just heard is not every county duplicates the state process of making sure those particular items always go back to the same incarcerated person.
So if I, oh, sorry.
So I don't know if the counties are willing to duplicate the state process and have those items always be returned to the individual.
They will if we pass the RSA.
Well, true. I am a big advocate of the fact that we are the ones that write the policy. They have to follow it.
Okay, so basically we're all on the same page here that if it's yours originally and it comes back to you, then that is okay. What we don't want is this has, some stained residue on it, which is clean and sanitized, right? But going to somebody different.
Right.
So Superintendent, I just asked the question whether or not it's new underwear or not, and Superintendent Henry said, no, it's washed and cleaned. If it's ripped or stained, it's automatically disposed of.
So we're codifying what some counties are doing. That sounds fine.
But he's still saying it's not new underwear. which
So
means that
we're
if
saying they have
using
to be
somebody
issued
else's
new
underwear-
when they're brought in.
And he's fine with that change to new. I did ask him that.
Okay, I'm glad. Can I just off topic say how happy I am that this subcommittee is entirely women?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't. I think the chair was probably made a wise decision in that case.
I was sitting there going, no, do not, no,
Uh-huh.
no. And then he looks at me and goes, are you really saying no? I am really saying no. And so you really asked me, he goes, yes. All right.
I'm
About
just
time.
wondering if we need to give a floor speech on this, if we'll need to bring in show and
Please,
tell.
God, no. We are not doing a floor speech on this.
And-
We will just pass
and-
it out of committee. This will be a 20-0.
On consent. That's what I love.
There you go.
I will personally bend an earlobe if I have to. This
And-
will be.
I will say, just for anyone new, that our house rules do state we're not allowed to bring props
I
to the
just-
floor.
I'm just saying we could.
You
give a
could
cup
wear
service
it
to mailboxes.
if it's, you fashion into a brooch or something, a scarf.
No, this will be consent.
On consent, I
Everybody
like
has
it.
a job. Your job is to tell your next door neighbor whoever sits next to you.
One little thing that had been irritating me in the back of my head that I never put into the language is, and this would be probably line earlier in, he's like, I'm just here.
Everything's a teachable moment.
What happened? Did I miss something or did I say something?
He's trying not to be seen as getting as small as he can.
Oh, okay. Yes, he's like, what shade of crimson has he turned? So I want to add, when menstrual products are provided, that they be provided in a timely manner, because some of the stories I was personally told was that maybe there was a delay between when they would ask and when it would get approved. So I don't know if this subcommittee would be okay with the words "in a timely manner."
So I think we're back. I think we're back to probably a judgment. What does timely manner mean to one person and another? Is that something?
Indeed.
Does that have to be? I mean, how do you identify timely manner?
It's the kind of thing that would go to court and be
Right. So I don't know if I don't know if that is
Within-
something that can be regulated? How would you guys
Within
determine
A number of
manner?
hours.
We don't have it like that
Mhm.
spelled out in our policy, unfortunately. It's not, kind of not really a second thought. It's just provided the same way we would provide toilet paper or, and I know that like our male corrections officers that have the belts, they carry tampons in there just in case somebody needs one. So it's, I mean, it's
So-
not really a availability issue there.
So you know when you're in the hospital, and so as an example, I'm there for 4 days. I wrecked my snowmobile, and I broke both sides of my pelvis and my shoulder.
Mm.
And they would say, you know, you have to push the magic button to ask for the magic pill, and you know, half an hour later, well, now I'm dying. Right.
And that's a lot of pain.
That's yeah. So, but to them, they had to put in the order. They had to get it right. So then I was like, all right, well, I'll ask for it a half an hour ahead of time so that it's there in that half an hour. Nope, you can't do that because, you know, by the timing. So to them, that was a timely manner. To me, it wasn't very efficient.
May I ask the representatives from the prison and jails if an hour would be reasonable?
Can we put a time in there?
I would caution you against putting a time
Putting a
limit
time,
in
right.
it, a specific time, just because something is always going to happen.
I
And
mean-
if we don't make that time, what does that mean?
But if you say like, well, I got it to them in 3 days, then
Yeah. See, that's not
that's
really
your whole
reasonable, is it?
cycle.
So what do we do? Do you have a suggestion?
I just wanted to provide a comment that I think the function of reasonable in the law isn't to guide the person implementing it. It's really to initiate a discussion during litigation. And so
Right.
if the concern over setting a time limit is over litigation, it's kind of neither here nor there. Because if when you get to the point of debating what reasonable was, you're in litigation. So maybe the sort of middle ground would be to say within an hour unless circumstances require something along those lines.
Barring extenuating circumstances.
So I agree with you. I'm not trying to make it have to be necessarily a lawsuit. I'm just trying to.
Well, we want.
I think it's a judgment of what reasonable is to some people. I mean, reasonable is.
And the point of adding, even if it's that squishy term of reasonable, the point of adding it is so that if there is a county that has been grossly negligent and has caused someone to wait for days, they have that to go to in the RSA. They can then make a case to a judge and say, this wasn't reasonable. 3 days is not reasonable for a menstrual product. So there's, I think we need to have something addressing time in there. It's how specific the subcommittee wants to get. I'm happy to be as squishy or specific as you all like.
What do you guys have in yours? Is this a problem that we have to make sure we put in here?
I would say we don't have a problem. Like in general, we haven't needed to put that into our policy because we haven't had that problem at the present with somebody not getting it in what they consider to be a timely manner. But I defer. I mean, it's
So if we put it in there, you guys are already doing it anyway. So it's kind of
Right.
It's happening anyway.
I think saying something like an
Okay.
hour is very specific. So I would be
Put the
concerned
timeline.
with an hour. But
2
I
hours. I mean,
understand.
I don't think we should put a time frame. What were you going to say, Representative?
I was just going to say, on that line between 11 and 13, we could say something about, superintendent, blah, 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 shall provide the products to all people who menstruate in the custody of the county in adequate amounts as necessary at no cost to such person, and, oh gosh.
in a timely manner.
It's something about an immediacy and meeting the immediacy needs of the inmate or something. So
Right.
nobody's waiting. And
To address the urgency or something
or
like
And
that?
just-
in such a way
I
that
think it's an immediate need. You can't wait
Meets-
necessarily.
immediate needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going back and
that's,
forth.
that's not a time thing, but
No.
Well, if you mean grammar, yes, but if you mean intent, no.
No, they won't.
So is there a grammatical?
I just think the immediacy, it doesn't give a specific hour or whatever, but it certainly prescribes that there's an expectation that people should not have to wait for something that is an immediate need. And
I like
think
that. I like that
It's
terminology. I
sort
like
of,
that.
it's sort of a, we know,
Uh-huh.
when you need it, you need it. And So
I like that.
All right. So I
You
have
guys got that written down? You got that written down over there?
in such a way as to meet any immediate need.
I like that.
which is
Immediate need, sense of urgency, hurry up.
I have it.
Hurry up on an amusement park.
Sorry, may I just procedurally, because again, I'm learning it all. So who sends all this to get revised?
I'm happy to volunteer my services, but anybody can do it.
So this is what will happen. I would say that Representative Reed's making all these notes because this is kind of her little project. So she will take it and have it amended again, and then she'll send it back to the committee, and then when we actually do the executive session on this, somebody will say that they want to make a motion about to pass this legislation, and they offer amendment, whatever this amendment number is, and then we'll discuss that amendment, and then we'll first vote for the amendment, and then after that, we'll vote to pass it as amended. So, all right, but for today, what are we going to do here? So the amendment number is going to completely change.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Like multiple.
Madam Chair.
All right. So this little paper I have is kind of irrelevant right now because the amendment number that we have is going to be a different amendment number.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So the changes I have, just to recap, on line 13, after the words "at no cost to such person," I have and in such a way that meets any immediate needs. On line 14, I have after the words "provided a choice of," insert "standard issue feminine hygiene products." And then the lines 19 and 20, we are saying any items provided by the county, and this will be duplicated to the state as well. All this language I'm saying, to incarcerated persons that are impacted by menstruation shall be provided in an adequate number, unstained and sanitized before being provided, and that upon intake, undergarments shall be provided in a new condition.
Mhm.
And those
Any
are the
items
changes that I
provided by the
have.
county for persons that are impacted by the menstruation be provided in adequate. Where are you putting the upon intake? Are you putting it at the end of the
That's at
sentence
the,
or at the
I have it
beginning
at
of
the
another
end of,
sentence?
so after 21, at line 21, at the end of that paragraph before the second paragraph, new section.
So, okay. My thought would be on line 19 where it says menstruation period, see that?
Yes.
If we put the first part about upon intake first,
Okay.
because that's kind of comes
The logical
before,
sequence.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we put that line first about upon intake, whatever that wording is, and then after that, any items provided,
That are impacted.
then with the, yeah.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense,
All
Madam
right.
Chair.
I feel like we're going backwards if we do it the other way.
No, I,
I would actually stay awake at night
I appreciate the,
on that.
the nuance there. I do.
Welcome to my world. Like that's backwards.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Ladies, do you have anything that we did not address or that we need to change or anything? Input?
I don't think so. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Did we
Thank
beat
you.
this dead horse?
I think so.
but a room full of women came to a consensus about language, and I love it. I'm here for it.
I would just ask that Representative Reed share the final amendment with me so I can run it. Not all 10 counties obviously host females, just so I can run it past those superintendents because
I just
superintendent,
need your email address.
Superintendent Henry is obviously only one of 10. So
And I would appreciate both your email addresses, and I will make sure if you want all subcommittee members, if you want, I can include all of you as co-sponsors on the amendment so that everybody's name is on it.
I'm happy to be.
All right.
Representative, would you have anything to add? Stella, get anything to add?
Thank you for your work on this.
Of course.
Good? You good?
I'm good. Thank you.
Are you good?
I'm good.
All right. I will close the work session on House Bill 421. Thank you.
Thank you.
40 minutes. Good job.